what's happening and why I was there in the hospital instead of here with all of you, with my friends, my brothers, and why this had happened to my family and my son. And it's something remarkable in the hospital in Johns Hopkins that Baruch Hashem, the nurses, the doctors, everyone's very nice. They treat you very well. They try to make you very comfortable. They try to do everything they can for you. And there's organizations, Baruch Hashem, that really try to help and bring food and games for the kids. And there are people who help, and I really want to say thank you to people who did help and step up and be with us and do things for us in our time of need. Baruch Hashem, my son now is in remission. But at that time, this was in August, 1 year ago, Tisha b'av, and we didn't know. He had been in treatment for 2 weeks. We didn't know if it was going to work. We didn't know. And I was there on the floor in the hospital room, and I was realizing that we are not aware that all of us, Am Yisrael, Jewish people, the Yidden, every Jew, we're in treatment. Man, again, Galut, Galus is our treatment. But just like my son's medicine, it's poison, it's toxic. It's toxic. And we don't realize that. It's going into our veins and it's toxic, but it's what we have to do to cure us. And Hashem in His wisdom saw that things were going wrong, and the only treatment was to be without a temple, to be outside of Eretz Yisrael, and that was the treatment, but it's toxic. It's toxic like the chemotherapy that God willing cures us, but it hurts, and there's suffering, and there's side effects, and there's problems, and there's headaches. And I realized, Baruch Hashem, my son's very lucky. He was very lucky. The treatment was successful. When we were there was a boy who made friends with my son who was just starting treatment. And his cancer, he would be there for 3 or 4 years in and out for treatment. There was a little girl who was a year old, and she had been in the hospital for most of her life. That's all she knew. It was normal for her. And something we don't realize. We realize on Tisha b'av, but the rest of the year we don't realize. We're in treatment. We're not the Jewish people. I'm sure we are in the hospital right now. We are not at home with our family. We are not at home with the comforts of Yerushalayim and the temple and the Beit HaMikdash and the inspiration of the Karbanot and the Kohanim and the miracles and the Shekhinah radiating us. We are not at home. We are in the hospital, but we forget because Baruch Hashem, Hashem makes the Galut comfortable, bearable. We get jobs, we get busy, we get distracted, and it becomes bearable, and we forget that we're in the hospital and that we're in treatment and that there's poison all around us, and that's the only thing that can cure us. And I want to draw your attention to one thing that I saw this year that I thought about before, but the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. It says the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed by Kamsa Bar Kamsa, but Bar Kamsa is the one who reported on the Jews to the Caesar, got the Romans to attack because he was thrown out of a Suda, of a wedding. Because the wedding invitation should have gone to Kamsa, it went to Bar Kamsa. Bar Kamsa shows up for the wedding, the guy hates him, throws him out. The Maharsha says Kamsa and Bar Kamsa is a father and a son. So we understand the wedding invitation went to the wrong place, the wrong name. But of course, it was his best friend's wedding, so Kamsa was there too. Bar Kamsa showed up by mistake, but Kamsa was already there. The father was there, and he saw his son get harassed and then thrown out by the Balabait, by the man making the simcha. And the father didn't stand up for his son. And it's something that I thought about, and it pained me tremendously. When I was in the hospital with my son, it was bad for me, it was traumatic for me, but for my son it was so much worse. And I was doing everything I could for him, but I just couldn't understand his suffering and what he was going through. You really can't. And we should all take it upon ourselves if we want to rectify the problem. We should stop thinking about our own suffering. Baruch Hashem, we all have suffering. Every one of us has problems and trials and tribulations every day. We should stop focusing on our own suffering and start thinking about how to alleviate the suffering of others, starting with our own family, our own children, to be more sensitive to them. There are times when when I'm busy, I'm trying to work from home. My son comes up to me, he has a problem, he needs his shoe tied, and he wants to run outside, and like I'm busy, and it's so hard for all of us to stop what's in our own mind, our own heart, and focus on our children, our family, our community. But this is the tikkun, really, is to realize we all have suffering, and to, despite our personal suffering, help our fellow Jew alleviate their suffering, to have that sensitivity, to not stand by when someone is suffering or humiliated, but to stand with them instead. It's really the only way to get through this treatment, this toxic medicine that is exile, and to get back home and be healed.